You know Mario, the cheerful plumber, the family-friendly icon, the company that defined your childhood. But what if I told you that before Mario jumped over his first mushroom, Nintendo was neck-deep in gambling dens, underground syndicates, and pay-by-the-hour love hotels? This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is documented business history. And it is a masterclass in survival, reinvention, and ruthless capitalism. Because the Nintendo you think you know? It is a carefully constructed facade, a brand pivot so complete, so surgical, that they erased almost every trace of what they really were. Today, we are peeling back the layers. We are going into the archives, and we are exposing the most controversial chapter in gaming history. This is the story of how a gambling empire became a toy company, and why that transformation might be the most brilliant and coldest business decision ever made. Let's rewind to 1889, Kyoto, Japan. A craftsman named Fusajiro Yamauchi starts a small company making Hanafuda cards. Now, if you don't know what Hanafuda is, think of it as Japanese playing cards. Beautiful, hand-painted, flower-themed cards. But here is what they don't tell you in the official press releases. Hanafuda wasn't for children's games. It was for high-stakes wagering, the kind that happened in smoky backrooms and establishments controlled by the local syndicates. And Nintendo? They became the preferred supplier. See, in post-Meiji Japan, Western playing cards were banned because of their association with professional gambling. But Hanafuda? It slipped through the cracks. It was considered traditional. It was cultural. It was the perfect loophole. Nintendo's cards were premium quality, durable, hard to mark or cheat with, and most importantly, they were disposable. These dens would buy fresh decks constantly to ensure the integrity of the game. This wasn't just a business, it was a monopoly. Nintendo controlled up to 70% of the market at its peak. For decades, the Yamauchi family printed money. But by the 1960s, the market was flatlining. The golden goose was dying, and Hiroshi Yamauchi, the third-generation president and one of the most ruthless businessmen Japan has ever seen, knew they had a problem. They had cash, they had brand recognition, but they had no future. So, what do you do when your core business is dying? You pivot? Hard. Between 1963 and 1968, Nintendo tried to become 16 different businesses. 16. Instant rice, vacuum cleaners, a taxi company, and, of course, love hotels. In 1960s, Japan, these short-stay hotels were booming. Hiroshi Yamauchi saw an opportunity for pure cash flow. So Nintendo, yes, that Nintendo, operated a chain of these discrete establishments. They weren't branded as Nintendo, of course. That would have been corporate suicide. But the family owned them, operated them, and profited from them. For a brief moment, it looked like it might work, but it didn't. The taxi company lost a fortune. The food venture collapsed. The hotels were profitable, but they weren't a vision. They were a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. By 1970, Nintendo was in a full-blown crisis. Stock prices tanked. Investors panicked. Yamauchi was staring at financial collapse, and that is when a maintenance engineer walked into his office with a toy. His name was Gunpei Yokoi. Yokoi wasn't a designer. He was an assembly line engineer. But in his spare time, he liked to tinker. And one day, he built an extendable mechanical arm, just for fun. Yamauchi saw it, and he saw something nobody else did. He saw a way out. Yamauchi greenlit mass production. They called it the Ultra Hand. It sold over 1 million units. And just like that, Nintendo had a new business model. Toys, games, entertainment for the masses. But here is where it gets really interesting. Because Yamauchi didn't just pivot the company. He erased the past. The hotels were quietly sold off. The gambling associations were downplayed. The connections to the underground? Never mentioned again. Nintendo began a systematic rebranding campaign. They repositioned themselves as a clean family company, and it worked. By 1981, they released Donkey Kong. By 1985, the NES and Mario, the hero, the icon, became the face of a company that once catered to backroom gamblers and late-night hotel renters. But it raises a question. Was this reinvention genius? Or was it a total erasure of the truth? Here is the uncomfortable reality. It's not a redemption arc. It is a case study in strategic amnesia. Nintendo didn't succeed because of a moral awakening. They succeeded because Hiroshi Yamauchi was willing to do whatever it took to survive. He entered controversial markets. He took massive risks. He failed repeatedly. And when he finally found a product that worked, he ruthlessly buried everything that came before it. That is the real lesson. In business, your past doesn't matter. Your brand is whatever you say it is. If you control the narrative, you control the perception. Nintendo went from underground card suppliers to a family-friendly titan in less than 2 decades. They didn't apologize. They didn't explain. They simply moved on. Now, when you think of Nintendo, you think of Mario. You think of childhood. You don't think of the gambling dens. You don't think of the hotels. Because that is exactly what they want. So the next time you see a company reinvent itself, remember Nintendo. Because sometimes the most successful companies aren't the ones with the cleanest past. They are the ones who are best at making you forget.